A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Here we are again in Pakistan International School Taif Virtual Learning System. And this is welcome you students in class 6 Social Studies. And I am your teacher, Saidan. And we are following this book of class 6, as you know, for Social Study class 6. And as you know, in the last lecture, we have completed our chapter, and today we are doing our end of chapter questions and answers. So these are 4 questions are given in your exercise, and now we are completing their answers. So these are the answers of questions. Question number 1, its answer is: the significant event that took place in Arabia was the birth of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, in 570 century. The revelation of the Quran to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the beginning of the religion Islam. And answer number 2, the early Muslims migrated to Abyssinia to escape harassment of the leaders in Mecca. And the third answer is: the Islam spread in a different direction as a result of military campaigns, and traders and merchants also spread Islam when they traveled to trade purposes. Number 4, the significant event in the subcontinent in the 8th century was arrival of Muhammad bin Qasim in Sindh. Sindh became a part of the Arab Umayyad Empire, and this event also foretold the establishment of Muslim ruler in later centuries. So we have completed the answers of the chapter. Now we are starting our new chapter, chapter number 21. Islam first reaches the subcontinent. By 712 and 93 after the Hijrah, Islam had spread westwards from Mecca into Spain and even France. Eastwards, it had reached Central Asia, Iran, and Afghanistan. Arab traders were selling to the coast of India, Sri Lanka, and even Southeast Asia. Most of these ships sailed across the Persian Gulf and along the Makran coast. As they carried precious cargo, they were sometimes attacked by pirates. Near the port of Debel, which was at the previous, it was located in the Sindh, not far from where the Karachi now stands, the pirates were especially fierce. In 710, they seized an Arab ship that was carrying expensive gifts and slaves from the king of Sri Lanka to Caliph Walid in Damascus. Caliph Walid demanded the Raja Dahir of Sindh. He was the ruler of Sindh at that time, should return the prisoners and treasures, but Dahir refused, saying he had no control over the pirates. The governor of the Eastern Arab Empire then set an army under the command of his 17-year-old nephew, Muhammad bin Qasim, to rejoin So the Muhammad Qasim was sent, and he was the nephew of the governor. He was sent to the Sindh to rescue the prisoners. Muhammad bin Qasim was a brave young man and a good leader. Led by him, the army quickly captured Debel and Raja Dahar was killed in the battle. The Arabs then marched inland along the Indus Valley. With the surrender of with the surrender of Multan and Seven, Sindh and the southern Punjab now became Arab territory. At first, the new territory was part of Khilafat, but in 871 it became two independent Muslim states. Muhammad bin Qasim was recalled to Iraq, but Sindh continued as a part of the Arab Empire for the next 2 years, 200 years. Governors were appointed, the Arabs, but actual administration was in the hands of the local people, both Muslims and non-Muslims. Jizya, it is the tax of, which is paying the non-Muslims to the Muslims. And zakat, zakat is the poor tax payable by the Muslims were collected. Qazis were appointed to resolve disputes between the Muslims, while non-Muslims referred to their problems to their own chiefs or priests. Besides, the construction of mosques, temples were also built and repaired. Besides the construction of a mosque, temples were also built and repaired. The Arabs married among the Sindhis and settled down in Sindh, and the interaction between the two races was a rich cultural blend. Arabic was official language and Sindhi was the first Eastern language for the translation of the Quran. The ruler were good to the people of the country. They were allowed to worship as they pleased, and most of the Hindu officials kept their jobs. With the land now free from the pirates, the number of Muslim traders increased rapidly. As well as good, they took back to the Arabia, Persia, many new ideas such as how to navigate their ships by using the stars and much knowledge but about medicine. They learned new things about the mathematics, especially the use of zero, which later lead to the many important discoveries. So this was the page number 95 reading. Now further, page number 96, the Ghaznavid. The Ghaznavids were Muslims whose empire stretched from Central Asia to Afghanistan. Their capital was Ghazni, near Kandahar. The king Supatgin, 977 to 97, made many raids through the Khyber Pass into the northwest of a subcontinent for treasure and slaves, and later added the remaining part of the Punjab to his Muslim empire. His son, known as Muhammad of Ghazni, continued the raids into the India for another 30 years. He was very fierce in destroying Hindu temples, but otherwise a fair and a just ruler. He allowed non-Muslims to follow their own religion as long as they paid the taxes. He let most Hindu officials and army officers keep their jobs. He wanted to make his capital city, Ghazni, the most beautiful city in the world, and took artists, architects, musicians, writers, and scientists architects, musicians, writers, and scientists from the subcontinent to settle there. So this page is continues, 96 page is continues. The great trade route, the Silk Road from the China to the west went across part of the Ghaznavid Empire in Central Asia. The Ghaznavids ruled taxed the merchants traveling along this road, which made them very wealthy. They also trade in good themselves. They brought gunpowder, tea, pepper, and fine pottery from China to the subcontinent. And cotton, sugar, species, and perfumes from the subcontinent to China and Europe, trade grew rapidly. When Mahmud died, the Ghaznavid Empire broke up into Simalis state, all fighting for the power. So it is continues from page number 96, the Ghori and the Sultanate of Delhi. The Simal state of Ghor in what is now Afghanistan was ruled by two brothers. One invaded Central Asia, while the other, Muhammad Ghori, invaded India. Under his great general Qutbuddin Aibak, his armies swept across the northern India, bringing all the areas from the Afghanistan to Bengal under his control. When Ghori was murdered in 1206, his armies chose Aibak to be the Sultan. He was the first Muslim ruler of all northern India, and this was the beginning of the Delhi Sultanate. When Aibak died in 1210, he was followed by his son-in-law Al-Tutamash. Al-Tutamash had many, it is Al-Tutamash or Al-Tamash called, both names are correct, Al-Tatamash or Al-Tamash, had many problems defeating states which had seized the opportunity of a change of ruler to try to become independent. Even more serious were the invasion by Mongols from the Central Asia under the dreaded Genghis Khan. So now the Mongols enters in the subcontinent. Continuing reading, the Mongols. The Mongols were tribes who originally came from Mongolia, but who traveled across the great plains of Central Asia with their animals. They were very fierce warriors and fought bitterly among themselves. Genghis, a leader of one of the tribes, forced the Mongol people to unite in one powerful force. In 1207, they attacked the settled countries all around them with terrible savagery and cruelty, seizing an empire stretching from the China Sea to Russia. In 1221, they invaded India, but after a battle against the Al-Tutamash army, which neither side really won, they went back to the Central Asia. Genghis died soon after, and later the Mongols became Muslims. Many years later, these Mongols were to play a very important part in the history of India as the Mughals, which the Mongols then changed their name as a Mughals, which is the Persian version of their name. Now, Razia Sultan. After the Al-Tutamash death, none of his sons seemed capable of ruling, so his daughter Razia Sultana took control and ruled for 4 years. She was a strong ruler, personally leading her armies into battle, but the nobles and generals did not like being governed by a woman and murdered her. In 1246, a group of noblemen made Nasiruddin Al-Tutamash grandson emperor, but the real power was in the hands of his chief general Balban. Balban controlled the empire for 20 years on behalf of his master, and when Nasiruddin died, the nobles made him emperor. Balban also had to fight off the Mongol invasions. When he died in 1296, he was followed by a number of weak emperors until Alauddin Khilji came to the throne. Alauddin Khilji proved to be a capable and a good leader. He set up system of good governance. As a soldier, he was even more successful in driving out the Mongols and conquering much of southern India. Muhammad bin Tughlaq. After Alauddin, there was a struggle for power, and in 1320, Ghaizuddin Tughlaq became the ruler, succeeded by his son Muhammad bin Tughlaq. We know a lot about his reign because the famous Muslim traveler from Morocco, Ibn Battuta, lived at the Sultan's court for 7 years and left an account of what he saw there. Ibn Battuta says that Muhammad bin Tughlaq did much for the people, building great irrigation schemes, some of which are still in use. He built many hospitals, schools, homes for old people, and mosques. On the other hand, he also made some decisions which proved to be a very expensive mistakes, such as the shifting his capital to new city, Doltabad, and appointment of untrained people to the high post. After the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, his son Feroz Shah ruled for 37 years. He was a wise ruler and improved the condition of his kingdom. In 1395-98, the Mongols, now under the rule of Temur, once again invaded India. They captured and destroyed Delhi and killed many people, but Temur also took back with him architects, artists, and masons to work in his capital, Samarkand. This is the end of chapter 21, and it is also the end of our first term. So now we are solving the question and answers. So these four questions are given in this unit, and the answer I have given in this page. So this is the answer number one. I am not reading, but you will understand and you can write it very well on your copies. So this is question number one, question number two, question number three, and question number four. It is written, so you can write them very well in your copies and learn them. So till then, thank you very much, students. Today we have completed our first term syllabus. So inshallah, from the Sunday, you have the test from the two chapters, and inshallah you will follow and you will do it best. Thank you very much, students. Wish you all the best.